Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chad from BHL Woodworks. I'm just going to do another quick little video on some inlay work as I've been receiving some emails and some comments through Facebook regarding the inlay process, and not much is going to change, but I will say that I have adjusted a few things regarding some feeds and speeds, but and I have also changed the bit that I've been using, and I get a lot of questions regarding that. So let me show you from the male and the female standpoint. The female seems to be the easiest for most people to do. They are able to make a pocket of whatever their file is without a concern. So we're going to open up a new model, and then I'm going to import the vector. Now, when I make some of my vectors, I use Illustrator, and for some reason it doubles up things sometimes, and then sometimes I have to do a little bit of editing. But what I like to do is to make it just a tad bigger. You can do it by percentage, or you can do it by inches. Whatever works for you is perfectly fine. And then I'm going to select all, and then of course I'm going to center in the model. Now, a lot of these branches are very fine, and if you don't use a V-bit that is steep enough, it is kind of hard to capture all those details. But whenever I import a vector, the first thing I do is I grab them all, and then I run Vector Doctor to make sure that I am not going to have an issue. And as you can see, there are issues with this file, and it is simply because I made it in Illustrator. The way that I convert things, it seems to double things up. So I have to kind of go through and click on things very quickly, and essentially what it is they're overlapping. And in order to do that, you're selecting at one time, you hit the delete key, I clear the markers, I select all again, and then I keep checking, and then I select and make sure that I get everything that has green circles. The green circles are not necessarily a bad thing. They can be annoying, but easily fixed without a problem. And if you should delete something by accident, you can always just Control Z and bring it back. There's actually a few parts of this file that I did not use because I thought that they would be too small, and I didn't want to risk any kind of breakage. So I will show you what I got rid of, and then quickly generate the toolpaths that we have. So we'll just clean this up real fast. We still have a few greens, which again is generally meaning there's some overlap. I'm going to select. Now you see that we have some reds, but still two greens. So we're going to just double check this, get rid of that. We'll clear the marker, and then sometimes if you remove just the vector loop, clear the marker, and now that red is gone, because you cannot V-carve if you have any vector loops. Okay, so the file is now good. So let's get on to the toolpaths, and again we're going to just select all, and I'm going to kind of zoom in, but there's some small parts like this spot I didn't want to use, so I just took it out, and even some of these little guys here, and I just deleted them. Again, select all, we'll go to toolpaths, and we're going to go to V-carve. Now if you're using Maker, the V-carve should still be at the top, so it's not a Maker or Maker PLus issue. V-carving is definitely in all of the programs. So when you click V-carve, your start depth on your female is going to be 0, and I have been carving to the depth of 0.25, but for this purpose you can do 0.2 just so that you can see what's happening. Then you're going to select your V-bit. Now I've been using this 12.4 and I list it as a metric V. Although it is not a true V-bit, it is pointy enough, and it is the Amana 46473, and I can put a link in the video to show you what that bit is. I will always click refresh to make sure I don't have any issues, and then of course I'm going to rough out with a 1/8 inch and mill. Make sure that you have set your safe Z and your home Z and all those other settings, and then of course most of my boards are generally around 2 inches, but this doesn't have to be exact, and then I click OK, and then of course I calculate and I get a picture. And you can see that the 1/8 inch bit, if you zoom in, is doing quite a bit of work, and then the V bit is only going to do where you see these really fine lines. Now in this section here, and this section here, and here, and here, you'll notice there's only one line, which means the V bit is only going to run one pass. So if you are afraid to have some really thin parts, what you could do is, we'll turn off the toolpath for a second, uncheck everything, and I will take these two and I'm going to run an offset at a very small distance, maybe roughly 1/10 if not less. So I'm going to do 0.008, and I'm going to go out, and it's going to be a sharp, and I'm going to delete the original, and it's a little fatter. And if I want to do a little bit more, just run it again. No big deal. If you ever have anything really skinny that you're afraid of, you can always, what I say, fatten it up. Here's a spot that maybe needs a little help, and you can see that it grew just a tad. Here's a really tiny spot. Again, if you're worried about having some really fragile spots, you can do that. Now we'll go back to the toolpaths, double click it, there's our V-carve. Now you'll notice the the 4 things we changed are black. We need to make sure that we get them all again, and we'll select all, Control A, and then we'll calculate again. And there you have your female. Looks pretty good there. Of course, here we are looking at a screen. This board is roughly 17 by 14. Of course, you can size it any way you wish. I would say when you have small details, the larger the better. Now to go from here to the male, of course we're going to need a new model. So what I like to do is leave this one alone. I'll right click on Carveco and hit Carveco again at the bottom, and it's going to open a new file. And then I'm going to make a new model, same dimensions as my other one for now. And now I have a blank canvas. If I come back to my original, I'm going to shut off all the toolpaths. I'm going to select all, which is already selected. I'm going to copy, come back to the other model, then I'm going to paste. Now key with all inlays is you have to then make a mirror. So we need to have all selected. We're going to mirror objects, and we're going to mirror it over the center, and it just flips it. If you forget to do this step, when you go to cut your inlay, it will not fit. So if we decided now that this was good and it's an exact replica except flipped, if we don't make an offset for this, we are not going to get a raised inlay. So let me show you what I mean. If I just select all of this and I do a V-carve, my start depth now is going to be 0.15, and my maximum depth is going to be 0.05. Those two numbers together equal 0.2, which was the depth of my female. This 0.15 is telling me and telling Carveco that I'm going to stick 15/100ths into the inlay, and there's going to be 5/100ths above the inlay so that I have something to cut off and then shave down. If I select the same exact tools, as I did before, and I select, now of course my inlay piece is going to be much thinner, so even if it's 0.75, and I click OK, and then I calculate, you're going to see that we have an issue, and the issue is I've just basically carved the exact same thing, except it's reversed. So this is not what we want. We need to make sure that we have an offset around. So I'm going to unhighlight my toolpaths, Now you can do this two ways. Some people choose to take the outermost vector and then offset it. In this case, because of all these details, I would not do such. I would just simply grab the square or rectangle and draw myself something around my entire vector. I create it. Now when I go back to my toolpaths and I highlight this, this is not what I need. I need to recalculate. So I'm going to double click the V-carve. I'm going to select all, which includes this boundary. I'm not going to change any of the settings. And then I'm going to calculate, and you're going to see what happens. Now it's kind of a negative, which is exactly what we want, so that when we simulate, you're going to see, and I'm going to change this so that we can get a better view, and I tilt it, you will see that we now have raised points. And these raised spots are what is going to fit, and I'll go back to this for a second. Change this to a, and you will see that we have pockets. So those pockets are going to get filled by these pieces. So then, of course, you will cut away any excess at the top here and bottom on your bandsaw or circular saw or jigsaw or whatever you're using, and then you will mate them together. And as I've said to a lot of people who have asked, clamping pressure is key. I happen to have made a pneumatic press, and you're more than welcome to send me a message and I can share with you that press, or people are using the Harbor Freight bearing presses, the hydraulic presses, which is an option. But that is the inlay process for this file, and really it doesn't change for any file. You just need to make sure that you have done your due diligence in making sure that your file is clean and ready to be carved. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and make sure you subscribe and like. Have a great day.